morning. Um, you would have seen that we've released several of the documents. It was a successful visit and we've had some very meaningful outcomes. For more on the outcomes and as to all the discussions that have happened in the Quad Foreign Ministers meeting, I turn it over to Sri Nagaraj Naidu. Over to you, Naga.
Thank you. A very good afternoon to one and all. The 11th Quad Foreign Ministers meeting was held earlier today at Hyderabad House. It was hosted by External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar. The meeting, as all of you are aware, was attended by the foreign ministers of Australia and Japan and the Secretary of State of the United States. The Quad ministers had an opportunity to take a review of the progress of the Quad agenda and discussed regional and global developments concerning the Indo-Pacific. The meeting reaffirmed the Quad's commitment to a free and open Indo-Pacific and emphasized that the Quad continues to evolve as a practical and an action-oriented platform, delivering tangible benefits for the region. Discussions focused around 4 pillars of Quad cooperation. The first pillar is maritime and transnational security. 2, economic prosperity and security. 3, critical and emerging technologies. And 4, humanitarian assistance and disaster response. The ministers underscored the importance of maritime security and resilient sea lanes in the Indo-Pacific. The Quad has expanded its cooperation under the IPMDA, which is the Indo-Pacific Maritime Partnership for Maritime Domain Awareness, including efforts towards a comprehensive common operational picture across the Indo-Pacific. The Quad today launched the Indo-Pacific Maritime Surveillance Collaboration, the IPMSC. This is aimed to strengthen the coordination in maritime surveillance. IPMSC, with the integration of the latest technologies, will augment the IPMDA and enable sharing of real-time information and provide an enhanced picture of vessels. This effort will initially be focused on the Indian Ocean region. Counterterrorism is a significant pillar of the Quad cooperation. Ministers strongly condemn terrorism in all its forms and manifestations, including cross-border terrorism. The joint statement specifically condemned the terrorist attack in Pahalgam in April 2025 and reiterated the need for decisive international action against terrorist entities, financiers, and sponsors. Economic security and resilient supply chains featured prominently in the discussions. The Quad announced the Quad Critical Minerals Initiative framework to strengthen cooperation in mining, processing, recycling, and investment across trusted critical mineral supply chains. The idea is to mobilize public and private sector support and deepen cooperation in various areas, including regulatory practices, investment facilitation, recycling technologies, and resilient supply chains essential for advanced manufacturing and emerging technologies. The ministers underlined the importance of freedom of navigation, unimpeded commerce, and the safety and security of seafarers, including through key maritime routes. In light of the recent disruptions in global energy markets, the Quad has launched the Quad Initiative on Indo-Pacific Energy Security. The effort is aimed at leveraging the unique resources that Quad partners bring to the table. And the idea is to come up with an engagement plan that will focus on technology, management, international market analysis, and emergency response. Building on the success of the Quad Ports of the Future conference that India had hosted in Mumbai last year, the Quad has reaffirmed its commitment to trusted and resilient infrastructure, including port infrastructure development in Fiji. The ministers emphasized the importance of trusted technology partnerships in areas such as 5G, 6G, AI, Open RAN, semiconductors, digital standards, and strengthening undersea cable connectivity across the Indo-Pacific. The Quad also announced cooperation on next-generation communication standards and digital identity interoperability. The Quad reaffirmed its commitment to practical cooperation in the domain of HADR, The Quad also highlighted progress under the IPLN, which is the Indo-Pacific Logistics Network, which is aimed at enabling faster and more effective civilian disaster response across the Indo-Pacific. Overall, the foreign ministers' meeting has demonstrated the Quad's continued focus on practical cooperation and delivery-oriented initiatives that contribute to peace, stability, resilience, and prosperity of the Indo-Pacific. At the end of the meeting, Quad partners have adopted 4 documents: a joint statement, a fact sheet, a joint statement on the Indo-Pacific energy security, and the Quad Critical Minerals Initiative framework. All of these 4 documents are already uploaded on the MEA website. Thank you very much.
Thank you. With that, we open the floor for questions. So we'll go from this side or from here, Akhilesh.
So I'm Akhilesh Suman from DD News. Strait of Hormuz is one of the major problems of the world and specifically the Indo-Pacific country, Global South. When the 4 foreign ministers met today, what was the orientation of the discussion, and was there any, joint action plan for reopening the Strait of Hormuz?
We go second one.
मैं उमा शंकर सिंह, इंडिपेंडेंट जर्नलिस्ट। अभी आपने बताया कि कैसे एक पहल की गई है सर्विलेंस को लेके, जिसको कि ये सॉरी इंडो पैसिफिक मैरीटाइम सर्विलेंस कोलैबोरेशन की जो पहल है वो की गई है। मेरा सवाल ये है कि ये क्या सर्विलेंस इसके जरिए किया जाएगा, क्योंकि हमें ये पता है कि नेटो जो है वो एक मिलिट्री ब्लॉक नहीं है और ये किसी एक देश के खिलाफ भी नहीं है। क्या ये एक कलेक्टिव डिफेंस मैकेनिज्म की तरफ बढ़ने का पहला कदम उस तौर पे इसको देख सकते हैं? थैंक यू।
Kadambini, we'll come back.
I'm Kadambini Sharma, independent journalist. Sir, I want to ask this question on critical minerals understanding. It says that the framework will strengthen critical mineral supply chains in mining, processing, and recycling. So what is this system of recycling? Where will there be any special systems in countries or specifically in India? Thank you, sir.
Neeraj.
सर, नीरज, न्यूज 18 इंडिया से। आज संयुक्त प्रेस वार्ता के दौरान ये कहा गया कि 18 महीने में तीसरी विदेश मंत्रियों की बैठक है। अब से थोड़ी देर पहले आपने कहा कि 11वीं विदेश मंत्रियों की बैठक है, लेकिन अब तक 18 महीने में कोई लीडर सम्मेलन नहीं हुआ है और ये माना जा रहा है कि अमेरिका बहुत गंभीर नहीं है इसे लेकर। क्या इस बारे में कोई बातचीत हुई? साझा बयान में इस बात का जिक्र भी कर देता हूं, जिसमें कहा गया है कि आने वाले वक्त में क्वाड लीडर सम्मेलन होगा और अगला विदेश मंत्रियों का सम्मेलन होगा। ये सम्मेलन कहाँ होंगे?
सर, कृष्णमोहन शर्मा, भारत एक्सप्रेस से। एक सवाल उठाया जा रहा है कि क्वाड की जो सम्मेलन हो रहा है इंडो पैसिफिक, लेकिन उसमें थर्ड पार्टी के बारे में चर्चा की जा रही है और थर्ड पार्टी का उसमें इन्वॉल्वमेंट नहीं है। मतलब वो चाइना का एक उस पर रिएक्शन आया है, तो उसमें ये माना जा रहा है कि मैरीटाइम सिक्योरिटी की बात करें या इंडो पैसिफिक की बात करें तो उसमें उसका क्या स्टैंड रहने वाला और हमारा क्या स्टैंड है।
I think Nagaraj, we can take these questions and come back for more. You have an additionality, Huma? Okay, linked to his question. Please go ahead. Uma Shankar's question.
So I'm Huma Siddiqui.
Surveillance, huh? Surveillance.
Yeah, the U.S. Secretary of State also mentioned something about a Coast Guard joint action. So if you can talk about that, and also you mentioned about the energy security. You talked about the Quad talking about energy security. If you can talk, give.
We can take these questions.
Thank you. I think if you look at the joint statement that has been released today, I think contextually speaking, we find ourselves at that moment wherein the international waters are increasingly getting closed, and that is impacting our overall energy security, particularly not just India, but many countries across the Indo-Pacific. And I think all Quad partners agreed to this. And there was a long discussion on it as to what countries could do, how do we ensure affordable energy to, for example, for India, 1.4 billion people. What are we doing? How are we trying to diversify our sources from where we can obtain our energy? Similarly, Australia was sharing their experiences and Japan was sharing its experiences. Overall, I think the idea was, how do we ensure that as Quad partners, we can work together to ensure freedom of navigation, unimpeded commerce, because the rights and the safety of our seafarers is also involved. And in the midst of many of these complex global situations that we see, it is the seafarers that who keep getting impacted a lot. And Quad, if you look at the joint statement, there's a specific reference to this element also. So as the Quad ministers did deliberate on this for quite some time, and connected to this is the joint statement that we have specifically released on this occasion, which highlights as to how the Quad partners are spotlighting energy security. As I had said in my briefing note also, our attempt is to ensure that how do we leverage the unique resources and capabilities that the Quad partners can bring to bear and prepare an engagement plan. This plan will focus on not just technology, management, policy, but also international market analysis, as well as emergency response. How can we respond to such emergency situations? What are the best practices? So I think the foreign minister spoke on this issue at quite a length. And it is on that basis that some of these documents have also been released. I would encourage you to kindly look at this joint statement. There's some very novel ideas that we have put forward. I've heard a question on the surveillance bit that we had earlier talked about. This is the the Indo-Pacific Maritime Surveillance Cooperation. This should not be, surveillance should not be seen as militarization of the Quad. Neither is IPMDA, the Indo-Pacific Maritime Domain Awareness. The idea today is that the international waterways today are now getting clogged. At the same time, there are a lot of gray ships around. There are dark ships around. So countries, in the Indo-Pacific sometimes do not have access to such technologies. So Quad partners have come together. Some of these technologies are very, very expensive. They are available commercially. So what Quad partners are doing together is to somehow buy this. For example, we have the Indian Ocean region, the IOR, wherein we kind of get the data from the United States, and this data is then circulated to friendly countries who need such data for their own safety issues. So this is something that we have discussed within the Quad domain, that this IPMDA project has been going on for quite some time. It is not new. The additional layer that we have added through the IPMSC is to bring in more technology to bear. So IPMDA will top up with IPMSC, and this will enable us to provide real-time data to partners, particularly, and give them an enhanced picture of the kind of vessels that are operating in the waters. So that is the whole focus on the IPMSC. But we have seen a question on critical minerals and the focus on recycling. Today, the entire discussion around critical minerals, rare earths, etc., has taken immense traction. And the whole issue of how do you ensure supply chain resiliency, everybody seems to be asking the same question. But not everybody has the ability to process rare earths. So that has become a huge challenge, because not many countries have put resources into processing and extraction of some of these rare earth resources. And as we advance and focus more on new technologies, the demand for critical minerals is only going to rise. So how do you ensure that, for example, all of you are using smartphones, so the amount of critical minerals that could get into a smartphone is something that we need to think about. So as your automobiles are becoming extremely smart, if you look at an average automobile today, the dashboards are completely digital. All of them require rare earths. So as we keep growing and the societies and technology becomes more smarter, and in a country of as large as India, you need access to critical minerals. So you are looking at the entire value chain of the critical minerals, including recycling, because end of the day, if you have the technology to extract critical minerals out of uh, uh, electronics that have been used but are going to be anyway disposed of, so that will be a huge game changer. And it is this area wherein we think that India can come together, because end of the day, recycling is not going to be an easy. You also need large quantities of products to extract your resources from. And I think the idea is to how do you bring private sector, public sector, quad partners together and identify relevant projects which can really work for the Indo-Pacific. So that was the whole idea. There was a discussion that this is the third Quad foreign ministers meeting in the last 18 months. Yes, the Quad, as you know, even Secretary Rubio in his intervention had mentioned that less than 24 hours since he was confirmed as the Secretary of State, he had hosted the Quad foreign ministers in Washington, D.C. on the 21st of January in 2025. So that was the first occasion. It was his first meeting with the Quad foreign ministers. This was soon followed up by a second Quad foreign ministers meeting in July. And this is the third occasion that the foreign ministers are meeting. This actually talks about how active the Quad is. The Quad, the way we work is that there are a number of working groups in which conversations are happening almost on a regular basis, whether it is the counterterrorism working group, whether it is the infrastructure working group, whether it is the Quad maritime security working group, or the critical and emerging technologies working group. So the Quad is actually a very active group. Practically every month, there are about close to 5 to 6 working groups that get to meet. And that is the reason why we require, in some sense, the Quad foreign ministers to keep doing a review of the kind of work that the Quad working groups are delivering. As far as the summit is concerned, I think Quad leaders have just met. The Quad foreign ministers have just met today. The Quad usually discusses these dates and occasions where it is convenient for the leaders to meet, because leaders' schedules always are very, very difficult to kind of, pin down today. There have been in the past occasions wherein, for example, the summit had taken place in Delaware in 2024. It was actually supposed to be hosted by India, but then as a gesture to President Biden, who was leaving the White House, it was decided that perhaps it could be done in Delaware. So we leave it to our seniors, our foreign ministers. They are in touch with each other. And even if you see, there is a mention of the summit and the foreign ministers meeting in the joint statement. As to when, where, I think we will come back to you. This will be a great occasion for us. A summit level meeting is always something that even we look forward to. There was a question at Quad at Sea. Quad at Sea is an element that we think it is actually something that we have started last year. And this year, India will be hosting it. It is to bring the coast guards of the 4 countries together and enhance cooperation. We would like to understand as to how coast guards of Japan operate, Australia operate, the United States, and what are the lessons that we could take from them. So this is an additional dimension of Quad cooperation. There is a lot of learning. India has a very long coastline, and we are very conscious of what we need to be doing, what could be done. These are the areas where I think Quad can really enhance its learning, and by enhancing its learning is when we could actually take it back to our Indo-Pacific partners who are looking at good examples. So I think I've taken all questions.
There was one question about Quad's purpose.
Can you please repeat your question? Maybe I didn't-
Krishnamurti?
कृष्ण मोहन शर्मा भारत एक्सप्रेस से चीन का एक स्टेटमेंट आया है कि जब इंडो पैसिफिक की हम बात कर रहे हैं तो थर्ड पार्टी को उस पर डिस्कस किया जा रहा है परोक्ष रूप से या अपरोक्ष रूप से, लेकिन ये कोशिश ये की जा रही है कि दूसरे पार्टी के पार्टिसिपेशन को न्यूट्रलाइज कर दिया जाए या कम कर दिया जाए.
See, the quad here is not the quad's existence is not because that we need to address a particular geography's concerns. I think the quad has come together way back in 2004. This is 2026. We have been, the quad has been operating now for a very long time. And as we always keep saying, our focus has always within the quad has been to deliver practical projects. The quad has come together at the time, everybody knows at the time of the COVID pandemic, how the quad came together and had the pandemic response that was put together in delivering of vaccines. Similarly, I think many partners don't realize, if you look at some of our previous fact sheets, for example, India, through the Quad platform, we are delivering off-grid solar projects all along East Africa. We are also doing projects in Fiji. So I don't think the Quad is, there is always an attempt to perhaps paint Quad in a particular manner, but that is not what it is. Quad, if you look at what we do, the Quad activities are always, informed. All our documents are publicly available. And if you look at the kind of documents we are bringing out, we are enlarging the scope of the developmental agenda. Critical minerals is of a huge importance today all across the world. And Indo-Pacific partners are asking us as to what can the Quad do. For example, I'll give you a very good example of India is offering scholarships to students in the Indo-Pacific, a 4-year engineering program in some of the best national engineering colleges in India. And today we have about 14 students from the Indo-Pacific, from 11 different countries who are pursuing an engineering program in India. So this is the kind of projects Quad does. Highly impactful. Our idea is to focus on how can we enhance the skills, the capabilities of our partners. So I think the idea is what we plan to do is we have a very clear focus that the Indo-Pacific is a region that the Quad would like to deliver public goods. This has been articulated many, many times by our by the Prime Minister as well as by the Foreign Minister. So that would be our focus and we will take it forward.
Mhm. We come this side now. We start with Siddhant.
Hi, sir. Siddhant from Vion. What is the big message from the Quad Foreign Ministers meeting in terms of its future? Because at this time, it's believed that either the Quad is dead or there is a change in the American position. They're going, not very strongly because of the recent visit of Trump to Beijing.
Mhm. Okay. Madhu.
सर मधुरेंद्र, मैं न्यूज़ नेशन से। चूंकि क्वाड के फोरम पर टेररिज्म की बात हुई और जो ज्वाइंट डिक्लेरेशन है उसमें पहलगाम आतंकी हमले की बात भी है, क्या क्वाड देश जो हैं कोई एंटी टेरर एक्सरसाइज को लेकर फॉर्मेशन कर रहे हैं? और क्या इस बातचीत में पाकिस्तान को लेकर कुछ खास इंगित करते हुए चर्चा हुई? क्योंकि ऑपरेशन सिंदूर के बाद भी हम देख रहे हैं कि पाकिस्तान की ज़मीन पर भारत के खिलाफ आतंकी जो इस्तेमाल है वो लगातार जारी है। और दूसरा सवाल हमारा है, क्वाड को लेकर जब हम बात करते हैं तो बार-बार ये जिक्र आता है फ्री एंड फेयर इंडो पैसिफिक का, मैरीटाइम रूल्स का, लेकिन ज़ाहिर तौर पे अगर इंडो पैसिफिक में देखें तो हेजेमोनी जिस तरह की चाइना की है, तो क्या उसको लेकर कोई डिस्कशन हुआ?
Ram.
सर ब्रह्म प्रकाश दुबे जी न्यूज से। मेरा सवाल है कि जो भी इशू डिस्कस हुए हैं इस फोरम पे, क्या क्वाड के विस्तार को लेकर भी कोई चर्चा हुई है? खासतौर से इंडो पैसिफिक क्षेत्र के जो कंट्रीज हैं उनमें से किसी का तरफ से प्रस्ताव भी क्या आया है या मांग की गई है कि इसके विस्तार में शामिल होने की? तो ऐसी कोई चर्चा हुई है क्या क्वाड की? थैंक यू।
Kalol.
Sir, Kalol from the Hindu. Sir, in the joint statement, you are referring to rule of law. But I want to ask you, when we look at the actions by the United States in the recent past, do you think that fits in well with that? Especially the attack on Iran. That's what I'm referring to.
Siddhant.
Hi, sir. I'm Siddhant from CNN News 18. Sir, just want some clarity on who is actually a chair of Quad this year or next year, because there are multiple reports doing the round that India will pass on the baton to Australia. We were supposed to host the summit in 2024, but then summit took place in United States. Then last year we were supposed to host, could not happen. This year, so are we carrying forward the pending chairship of Quad, or what's? Just give some clarity on this. Thank you.
You have a question there, no? Okay, then we'll come back. You got 3 questions, then we'll come back tomorrow. Okay, all right, please.
I think there was a question by Siddhant on what is the focus of the Quad, whether the US is interested or engaged in it. I think you should, as I just had kind of indicated earlier today, I think the United States is very engaged, continues to remain engaged in the Quad. You saw that in Secretary Rubio's statement, and also acknowledged by the Australian Foreign Minister in her articulation of the amount of importance that the US is paying to the Quad. And I would encourage you also to look at the US focus on the Indo-Pacific through their new national security strategy and their national defense strategy, which would also kind of indicate to you their focus on this region and on the Quad. And as I said, in 18 months, this is the 3rd meeting. So the Quad foreign ministers remain deeply engaged, and these are 3 of those meetings where they have come together as a group. But also, please don't forget that the Quad foreign ministers meet on multiple occasions at other plurilateral platforms, which keep happening from time to time. So I think the focus remains, as we always keep saying, that the Quad is here to stay, and the Quad will continue to keep going strong. We do not see that our work has kind of come down. It has only increased. We've been adding layers of initiatives to what we keep doing in the Quad domain. And our partners are very happy with the kind of work we are doing and delivering. One of the colleagues had asked about whether any country would like to join. As of now, the Quad continues to remain a grouping of 4 members, but we are delivering for all of the Indo-Pacific. So I think wherever we see there is a potential for collaboration in specific areas, I don't think the Quad is averse to working with other partners. So there was a question on counter-terrorism and whether there is any exercises. I would encourage you to please look at the Quad fact sheet that we have released. If you look at the serial number 4 of the fact sheet, it very clearly says that last year India had hosted 2 Quad workshops on counter-terrorism, which is focused on countering the use of unmanned aerial vehicles, drones for terrorist purposes, and preventing terrorist exploitation of new and emerging technologies. And Quad partners will hold Quad counterterrorism tabletop exercises, which will be focused on state-sponsored terrorism threats and uncrewed aerial vehicles. So this is going to take place in Australia next month, in the month of June. So Quad is heavily focused on CT because this is an area that I think all Quad partners continue to remain engaged. Terrorism is changing. The nature of terrorism is transforming. The kind of instrumentalities that the terrorist organizations are deploying are also changing. So this requires that all Quad partners join hands together. As you have seen last time after the Pahalgam attack, the Quad partners came together in July when we met. A very strong statement was released by the Quad on the Pahalgam attacks. At the same time, we worked very closely with the United States, which resulted in the UN monitoring report actually publishing, mentioning the terrorist, the resistance front, the TRF had got mentioned in the UN monitoring committee report under the 1267 sanctions committee. At the same time, the State Department also has declared the TRF to be a forest terrorist organization. So I think Quad is a very valuable platform for our CT discussions. And the CT working group is a very vibrant group that does a lot of activities, a lot of tabletop exercises between the law enforcement agencies, between all the four Quad countries. I think one question on who is actually chairing the Quad. See, this question keeps coming, not necessarily from Quad partners. This is from others who want to keep questioning the Quad. All I would like to assure you is that a Quad is a very nimble organization. We don't have a formal secretariat, but that gives us the flexibility to do a lot of things. So currently, India continues to be the chair of the Quad. We were to, as I said earlier today, we were supposed to be hosting the summit, but it so happened that there was an opportunity that had come up, and the US wanted to host it in Delaware. So, and since it was also that President Biden was demitting office, so it was felt that it would be an opportune time for the US to host it. So, but I would rest assure you that currently India continues to remain the chair. We've just hosted the foreign ministers meeting. Definitely, the next foreign ministers meeting will be held elsewhere, and most of these decisions are taken by the foreign ministers. And whenever such a decision is taken as to the date and the venue, we will be the first to communicate that to you. Anything else? See, the question of rule of law did kind of not necessarily come up as a topic of discussion, but this is something that the Quad partners believe in, and there hasn't been a Quad statement without a mention of the rule of law. And whether our particular party, our colleagues in the Quad articulated in their interventions, yes, they did. They did mention the idea of rule of law. Whether we questioned somebody's interpretation of the rule of law, no, we didn't. But at the same time, it didn't necessarily come up in the context in which you have actually put it. Thank you.
So we have questions 1 to 3 there, and then Rishabh.
Hi, sir. This is Pushpita from New Indian Express. So, sir, under the commitment of 20 billion for the Quad critical mineral framework, if you could give us some idea how much of the financing is supposed to come from India, and if we have any specific private players who could be a part of it, and have we set any particular timeline for this commitment of 20 billion Quad framework?
Neeraj?
सर नमस्कार, मैं नीरज दुबे प्रभा साक्षी से। सर क्वाड के जो आलोचक हैं वो कहते हैं कि इस मंच से घोषणाएं ज्यादा होती हैं, परिणाम नहीं निकलते। तो विदेश मंत्री, सवाल मेरा ये है कि विदेश मंत्रियों की बैठक में क्या क्वाड की कुछ उपलब्धियों पर चर्चा हुई, इस पर संतोष भी जताया गया, ऐसी कौन सी उपलब्धियां रही सर?
Avanyu?
So, Abhimanyu Sharma from CNBC TV 18. So, there are news reports which are indicating that the future Quad Leaders Summit would be held on the sidelines of major multilateral gatherings instead of a standalone annual event. Is that correct?
I think on that he already spoke. So we got Rishabh.
Good evening, Secretary. This is Rishabh. Sir, just wanted to understand, generally we have seen there have been question and answers after the remarks at the Quad summits or the foreign ministers meeting. Today we did not see. So why was this exception made today?
You can take the first set of questions.
Thank you. I think, see, the 20 billion that you see is something that is a number that the Quad partners felt comfortable with, kind of looking at what each Quad partner was actually doing in that particular domain. The operationalizing this will happen in the next meeting. That this particular agreement that you see, we should thank the Ministry of Mines. The team there was very, very active in the negotiations, and we look forward to their next working level group meeting, which will kind of lay down as to the kind of activities that we could look at, particularly in the domain of critical minerals. As a matter of fact, a lot of activities already happening. We just need to kind of put it all together and take it forward. Neeraj. Okay. I think the achievement, see, the fact sheet is itself showcases what the Quad is delivering. So I don't know beyond that. I would encourage you to always look at the Quad fact sheets. There is a joint statement and there is a fact sheet. The fact sheet gives you a very clear articulation of what the Quad is delivering. And as a matter of fact, the Quad foreign ministers are extremely happy when they meet, because it is very easy to gauge the progress. For example, currently we are in the process, that India is in the process as part of the overall Quad efforts in delivering HPV sampling kits for cancer all across the Indo-Pacific. So this is an exercise we are already doing. So that's what I keep saying. Please look at some of our joint fact sheets. They're extremely good information that is put out there as to the kind of work Quad is actually, because we keep saying that the Quad is here to deliver public goods, and that is what we are doing. And this year you will actually see 3 to 4 off-grid solar projects that we are going to kind of build all across East Africa, and even including in Fiji, so in Comoros, Madagascar. So all of this is happening. Maybe we will have to, I'll encourage if we can bring out more infographics on the kind of work that the Quad does in delivering these projects. So, on the issue of Q&A, look, I think we should thank ASXP for putting up a huge hangar outside there, wherein I think if you had seen, I think the last time there was a Q&A for the Quad foreign ministers, it was in 2023 in Melbourne. Since then, I think in 2024, when Japan hosted it in Tokyo, there wasn't a Q&A session. Similarly, there hasn't been a Q&A session the last 2 times in Washington, D.C. So I think, I don't know if
this was the preference of the ministers, that we have just press statements, and naturally, being the host, we deferred to their choice, their preference. As Nagaraj said, this is also in line with the recent practice in Quad. So if we don't have any more questions, then we thank all of you for your participation. Thank you very much.